Hello everyone. I've had this VMAX for 18 months now as of the posting of this video, and I've been wanting to do a review at about the 1 year plus mark to give you an indication of how I feel about the bike after having it for that period of time. As you may have already seen, I did a comprehensive review after owning the bike for a few months, but now that I've had it for a full year and longer, I want to give you my impressions on how I like the bike at this point. So stay tuned and we will go over all of that. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is, in case you didn't know anything about the VMAX, this thing is built like a tank. So it is very solid from top to bottom. So that explains a lot about why the bike weighs 683 pounds. But anyway, this thing is a tough machine. So you'll often hear me and others call it a beast. And it is. It's big, it's heavy, but it's heavy duty. So based on that, right now this thing is just well constructed, very solid. But now let's get to the main point of having a motorcycle for any period of time. I think the first question that comes up in anybody's mind is reliability. Well, just like any other Yamaha or bikes from Japan for that matter, the big four, reliability is generally not an issue. And specifically on my VMAX, it has not been an issue. So this bike has never left me stranded, and it's never stalled on me, and it's never failed to start. I've never had a warning light come on indicating that anything was wrong. So on that alone, the bike is operating 100%. So I have no issues at this point at the 18-month mark. So now, speaking of failing to start, one thing I do want to note is that, and maybe this is just unique to the VMAX, maybe it's unique to Yamahas, but the one thing that I do find interesting is the sound of the starter when it is starting up. So to me it sounds very sluggish, particularly on a cold start. It sounds a little quicker on a warm start, but I don't know if that's something very unique. So feel free to chime in below for those of you that have other Yamahas and what your experience with Yamaha starters is. But I will show you right now what that sounds like, first with a cold start and then with a warm start. So like I said, that may be normal sounding starters for Yamaha, but my Hondas in the past never sounded anything like that. So it's not an issue because I've heard others talk about that as well, and I've heard other VMAXs start. But anyway, it is rather unique as far as I'm concerned. The only issue I have had with the motorcycle is twice this left mirror came loose as I was trying to make an adjustment. It was wanting to rotate. And really all I needed to do was torque down this nut right here. So it was an easy fix. I had to do it twice. I guess evidently the first time I didn't torque it down well enough. But I've got a handle on it now, and now I can make adjustments to the mirror, and that's not breaking loose. But that's the only mechanical issue that I've actually had. Now, one thing that I find that I do not like about the VMAX that I haven't mentioned anywhere else as far as I can recall is the seat. Now for me, the seat is very firm, but as I have mentioned several times before, I only weigh 130 pounds, so maybe I just don't have enough mass to push down and actually get to the foam portion of the seat. So it could be just me, but one of the things that I've noticed is, and probably true on any other seat, but as this seat tapers towards the front, for me, the most comfortable place is as far back as I can get. So there's obviously more padding back there. I know a lot of people like to get close to the tank and hug the tank and ride in a very aggressive style as if they are racing. But me, I prefer to sit more upright and as far back as I can to get more seat there. But again, for me, it's a little bit firm. Others, feel free to chime in with your experience. The next thing I want to talk about is the V4 engine. And that sound of the V4 has never gotten old in the past 18 months. So that's one reason why I was attracted to this motorcycle, was because it had a V4, which aren't as common as other configurations. But that sound never gets old, and one of the things that I really like about that sound is when you're slowing down and engine braking. You just can't beat it. It has a very deep sound, deep throaty sound, so I just love constantly downshifting just to hear that sound. But anyway, that's one of the unique features of the V4, and I still love it after 18 months. All right, as I've mentioned in other videos, and you've seen me before on some occasions, I will actually take the engine to redline, which is 9,500 RPMs. But on a couple of occasions, just out of curiosity, I wanted to see what would happen if I tried to go beyond it. I know it does have a rev limiter, and I just wanted to find out for certain if that thing actually works. So for me, it's the first motorcycle I've had that had a rev limiter, so I just had to know. So I did, as you can see here. So you can tell by the sound that it's basically cutting it on and off to limit the engine from basically blowing itself up. I don't do that very often. I did it mostly just for the sake of illustration and recording it on video. Now, one of the things that I mentioned some time ago in my video on the instrument panel, and I'll put a link to that in the description along with all the other videos that I'm referring to in this video. There'll be links to those, so you can go back and watch those if you haven't seen them already. But on the instrument panel, there are a couple of different screens that you can have kind of as your default. And the one that I prefer is system status. I like that mostly because I can see the temperature. I know the outside temperature, and that's kind of handy. But one of the things that's a bit problematic as far as I'm concerned is when it's in system status mode, when your fuel gauge gets to the low level warning, and that low level warning comes on, which basically means you have about a gallon left. When that low level warning light comes on, your system status will disappear. And basically your odometer then starts at 0, letting you know how many miles you have then gone since low level light came on, which is fine. I don't need the system status at that point because really it's urging you to find a gas station. The problem is, once I've filled the tank and the low level light goes out, the instrument panel does not go back to the system's status. So I have to go into the instrument panel, into the setup functions, and select system status to get back to where it was. So to me, that's annoying. I would rather it go back to what you previously had it selected and not have to go through that every time that low level light comes on. So I may be nitpicking a little bit, but electronically that just seems like this day and age that should not even be an issue. It should have some sort of a memory knowing where I had last selected as my preferred setting. Now, as far as what I would do next to this bike, or what I plan to do next to this bike, is I'm going to make one small change the next time I go to change the tires, and that is to put in a 90-degree valve stem. Some of you may have seen some of my videos on my flat tire earlier in the year, and also some of the tools that I use to kind of help me check tire pressure, because it is kind of hard to get to. But the solution will be the next time I change the tires, I'm simply going to put in a 90-degree valve stem, and that'll make everything that much easier. So, but that's really the only plan I have to do any type of real modification in the future that I haven't already done. And I haven't done many, as you know. I have a video on that as well. Now, I've had this bike for 18 months now, and I enjoy it every time I go out. And I am not going to get rid of this motorcycle. I think at one time, one of my videos had some people believing that I had traded this in for a Gull Wing. Well, clearly that was a joke. I have talked about getting a Gull Wing next year. I plan to still do that, and maybe add a third bike, maybe a year or two after that. And those bikes may come and grow as maybe upgrades to those platforms happen throughout the years. But this bike is definitely not going anywhere. A lot of people talk about a forever bike, and this bike is my forever bike. So I will continue riding the VMAX as long as I am physically capable of riding a motorcycle. So this one will be by far my favorite motorcycle, and it will be by far my most unique motorcycle. And with that, and as I've mentioned before, that no matter where I go, particularly when I stop for gas, a lot of people will often ask, what is that motorcycle? I've never seen anything like it. So that's one of the joys about riding the VMAX, is when people talk and stop and talk to you about it, because they've never seen anything like it. It is very unique. I know I've said that word a million times since I've gotten the bike, but that's the best way to probably classify it. Hopefully this helped you out, particularly for those of you that may be interested in buying a VMAX. If it did, please give it a thumbs up. See you next time.